You all knew I wasn't going to make 2 videos a week, or even 1 video a week, and you didn't tell me. How rude. That's just inconsiderate for everyone involved. But I'm here, my hair isn't dry, but I'm going to make a video, and it's going to be adequate. Alright, let's go. Light Fantastic picks up where the Colour of Magic left off, and if Colour of Magic is the teaser, then Light Fantastic is the payoff. Basically, the world is destined to end in the next 2 months unless the spell in Rincewind's head is set at the right time at the same time as its brother's spells. So Rincewind has to continue his talent of not dying, and it's about to get a lot more difficult. I'm sure it's not much of a spoiler to tell you guys that the world doesn't end, A, because there's 37 more books in the Discworld series, and B, because that's not usually how stories go, although Terry Pratchett doesn't usually take much stock in, usually. Something I didn't mention before is his great observations in folklore and legend. He sort of takes those archetypal images of heroes and maidens and enchanted forests and gives them a good dose of reality. Heroes grow old, talking trees don't really have that much to talk about, and druids are just kind of old world computer geeks, aren't they? Rincewind and Twoflower are still your main characters, and they actually have a much bigger pull on the plot. Rincewind starts to stand up for himself, and Twoflower does a bit more than stand around and go, ooh. And by the end they actually become a total BroTP, but there are a few more main players introduced. One of them is Death. I don't really know how to explain Death. How do you outline the character arc of the anthropomorphic representation of mortality? How do you grapple with the nuances and motive of the Grim Reaper? Basically think the representation from the Book Thief, but with a healthy dose of pragmatism, a disdain for tardiness and untidy behaviour, and a black sense of humour. At this point the Discworld series is only supposed to be 2 books long, so Death is sort of a side feature, but I'm pretty sure it appears in almost every single book hereafter. The omnipresent entity of humanity and all-round decent guy. You also get more of an understanding of the wizards from the Unseen University where Rincewind studied. They also pop out quite a bit throughout the series, or at this point their individual personalities aren't really developed, and in fact I think the characters that you get to know later in the series aren't there at all. They're sort of old, powerful men who've based their lives around the next hot meal and trying not to be assassinated by ambitious underlings. There are 2 more secondary characters, Cohen the Barbarian, an 86-year-old legend in his own time who can tackle just about anything except for solid food, and Bethan, who is an emerging representation of Pratchett's talent to seamlessly write good, interesting, practical, strong-minded female characters. I will rant a lot about that later in the series, but I just thought I'd warn you about what's to come. They are a great addition to the cast, although they don't have major roles in the plot, they're still a good part of the story and carry their own. Pratchett does have a good grasp of the dark and scary aspects of what a magical world entails, and he seems to focus on that a lot more in the earlier books than the later, but I feel like a lot of potential was missed in this one. Rincewind talks a lot about wishing for something more practical than magic, something neater, but later in the book when things like belief and magic, which usually holds the world together, begins to dissipate and things begin to fall apart, it would have been nice to see what the Discworld would be like without the magical field to which it is accustomed to, but any hint towards that kind of story arc is sort of skimmed over. But then again, I might be just wishing for what I want the book to have been, and rather than what it was. And for what it was a really good book. The plot is more controlled and shows more direction than that of Colour of Magic, and the characters have more of an influence on the path of the story. The pace is also really good, demonstrating purpose behind each scenario that leads up to the climax, which is a really good payoff in my opinion. One of the more physically intense ones that I think I've read in the Discworld series. In the middle it still feels a bit road trippy, but the stops seem to have more purpose and more leading towards something rather than leading away from the climax of the story. It is definitely worth getting through Colour of Magic to read the Light Fantastic, which I would give a solid 3.5 stars as a Discworld novel. Coming up next is Equal Rights. Hopefully I will be a little bit quicker on that than I was in this one. Thank you very much for watching. See you later. No. No! I just did that whole death speech like 5 times and it wasn't turned on. Rage quit.